Agra, Uttar Pradesh. A late night in 2021. In a small one-bedroom apartment in the middle of a quiet residential area, a man sleeps soundly after a day of raising a family. Next to him is his wife, and in the corner of the room is his daughter, just 7 years old. A seemingly peaceful night, but then, a shiny figure sneaks into the house from the back door. The floor is quiet. An arm is prodding the neck. A wife is hugging tightly. A child opens his eyes. His hands run up, not offensive. The next morning, the wife reported that her husband suddenly died in his sleep. Neighbors came to express their condolences. The police initially concluded there were no unusual signs. Everything seemed closed. Until the 7-year-old child said a single sentence that turned the whole case around. "I saw my mother kill my father." And from that moment, a heartbreaking truth gradually emerged. A mother colluded with her lover to murder her husband and was exposed by her own daughter. Let's delve into this special case, one where the truth does not come from forensics but from the innocent but chilling story of a second grader. The victim in the case was Surendra Sharma, a simple, gentle man, described by neighbors as a devoted husband and exemplary father. Surendra was a resident of Kandari, in the city of Agra, Uttar Pradesh. He worked in the mechanical field, earning enough to support his small family, including his wife Neetu Sharma and 2 children, including a 7-year-old girl. Although life was not too prosperous, Surendra always tried to build a family. He was described as calm, did not drink, did not gamble. But what no one expected was that the turmoil in that seemingly peaceful family had been quietly accumulating for a long time, originating from his wife. Neetu Sharma, his wife, was initially a housewife, but later had an affair with a man named Sunil, a neighbor in the same area. The two began to have an affair in secret, and the gossip in the neighborhood gradually became clearer. Sunil was said to frequently visit Surendra's house when he went to work, and the whole neighborhood vaguely realized something was wrong. The relationship between Neetu and Sunil became increasingly blatant, even public, despite the suspicious looks. What was even more heartbreaking was that Surendra, that honest man, also gradually realized the cold change in his wife, but instead of making a fuss, he chose to be patient, keeping the family for the sake of the children. However, deep inside Neetu, her love for Sunil had turned into an obsession. And day by day, the gentle husband became more and more a thorn in the side of this couple, the only barrier preventing them from being together. The hidden conflicts, jealousy, the desire for love regardless of morality, all had accumulated into a fire waiting to explode one day. And that is where the real tragedy began. In late 2020 and early 2021, the conflict in Surendra Sharma's family became increasingly tense and obvious. Relatives and neighbors noticed a clear change in the relationship between the couple. Neetu became cold, distant, and often got angry with her husband for trivial reasons. Meanwhile, Sunil, a neighbor who used to be a close friend of Surendra, appeared at his house with unusual frequency every time he went to work. Surendra was not a jealous man, but he was not blind. He began to suspect that his wife was having an affair, and according to some sources, he had hinted at her. But Neetu did not show any remorse, and even challenged her. She used the excuse of, he was suspicious, overthinking, and always blamed her husband for being heartless and not caring about his family. Despite his heartache, Surendra chose to remain silent, perhaps because he loved his wife, thought about his children, or lacked clear evidence. But the tension in the house gradually turned into a toxic atmosphere. Some of his friends advised him to discuss the matter with both families or seek legal help, but Surendra did not want to make a big deal out of it. Their 7-year-old daughter, a young but sensitive witness, noticed something was wrong sooner than anyone else. She often saw an uncle coming to play with her mother when her father was away, and she was scolded several times when she asked her mother. Those little things, from words, actions, to suspicious looks between family members, were obvious cracks in the already fragile family. Perhaps no one expected tragedy to happen. But inside Neetu and Sunil, a vicious plan begins to take shape. not only to clear the way for their affair, but also to permanently eliminate the man who is standing in the way of their future. On the night of April 22, 2021, in a modest house in the Ahmedpur area of Agra city, Uttar Pradesh state, inside a small bedroom, tragedy silently happened in the house that everyone thought was peaceful. Surendra Sharma, 38 years old, a devoted husband and a loving father, returned home as usual after work. Dinner was ready. His wife, Neetu Sharma, still acted as if nothing had happened, her face calm and cold. The little girl had gone to bed early after a tiring day of studying. That night, when Surendra was fast asleep on his bed, Neetu and her lover Sunil secretly sneaked into the room. In Sunil's hand was a rope that had been prepared in advance, while Neetu stood close to her husband to make sure he did not have time to resist. When everything was ready, Sunil tightened the rope around Surendra's neck, very tightly. Surendra struggled in panic. His eyes widened, his mouth opened wide, wanting to scream for help. But Neetu, his wife of many years, covered her husband's mouth, pinned his hands down. In that suffocating moment, the victim's gasps, his struggles, and his panicked eyes said it all. But no one saved him. Death came from the person he trusted the most. In just a few minutes, Surendra lay motionless. Not a single scream, not a neighbor or relative noticed. Everything was carefully calculated, but there was one thing they did not expect. The 7-year-old girl, their biological daughter, had woken up, quietly standing behind the half-closed door, and witnessed everything. The child did not dare to scream. She was silent because of fear, because of confusion, because she did not understand how the mother who used to hug her to sleep every night could do such a terrible thing. The murder had ended in darkness. But the truth, with all the pain and horror, was gradually revealed from the innocent eyes of a child. The next morning, April 23, 2021, in a peaceful residential area of Ahmedpur, a loud cry was heard from Surendra Sharma's house. It was the 7-year-old girl, the only child of the victim and the perpetrator, who ran to the neighbor's house crying and trembling as she recounted what she had witnessed the night before. The words shocked everyone who heard them. "My mother and an uncle killed my father." The neighbors rushed over. The bedroom door was unlocked, and inside was a haunting scene. Surendra Sharma was lying motionless on the bed, his body cold, his neck showing signs of being strangled. His face still bore the marks of panic that had not yet subsided. The pillow was displaced, the blanket was crumpled like a struggle in the dark. The local police were immediately called to the scene. When the investigation team arrived, Neetu Sharma was still in the house, pretending to be worried and crying. She told them in a choked voice that her husband had died of a stroke in his sleep, showing no signs of anything unusual. But her eyes could not hide the panic. Her lover, Sunil, was absent. No one had seen him around the house. The police officers quickly doubted Neetu's story. They sealed off the scene, collecting initial evidence. The ligature mark around the victim's neck, small scratches on her hands, signs of struggle, all contradicted the sudden death story. The key witness, a 7-year-old girl, was taken to child protection, where she gave an innocent but chilling account. Mommy and an uncle came into the room. Mom covered Dad's mouth. The uncle strangled Dad. Dad banged his hands on the bed. This statement immediately changed the course of the entire case. Neetu was arrested that same day, and a warrant was issued for Sunil. The lies collapsed within hours, thanks to the courage of a small child. Immediately after sealing off the scene, the Agra police forensic team was called in to conduct an autopsy and collect evidence. Surendra Sharma's body was sent to the hospital for forensic examination. The report later completely rejected the possibility of sudden death as his wife had claimed. According to the forensic conclusion, cause of death: asphyxiation due to strangulation with a soft rope, with obvious hematoma around the neck. Time of death: around 3 to 4 a.m. Signs of struggle: broken fingernails, scratches on the arms and back, indicating that the victim had resisted before losing consciousness. At the scene, investigators also seized A long scarf with fibers matching the strangulation marks on the victim's neck, found hidden behind the washing machine. Footprints outside the bedroom window, indicating that someone had entered through a side entrance, most likely Sunil. Neetu's phone had its call history erased overnight, but the technical team recovered it and found continuous communication with Sunil's number around 1 to 2 a.m. With clear evidence, Neetu was thoroughly interrogated. Initially, she tried to deny the crime, continuing to play the role of the grieving wife. But after more than 12 hours of investigation, faced with contradictions in her testimony and overwhelming evidence, her flaws began to show. The climax came when the investigator showed her daughter's recorded statement, and Neetu completely collapsed. She admitted, "I didn't want to kill him, but I couldn't live like this anymore. Sunil said he would protect me, that if Surendra disappeared, we could be together." She claimed that the plan had been discussed many days in advance, and that it was Sunil who directly strangled Surendra, while she held her husband's hand to prevent him from struggling. Sunil was arrested after 2 days of hiding in a guest house outside Mathura. When he was caught, he showed no remorse, and even blamed Neetu. "She was the one who wanted to kill my husband first. I just followed suit." The two were quickly charged with premeditated murder under Section 302 of the Indian Penal Code. But most of all, it was the testimony of the 7-year-old daughter that became the key evidence, making the entire crime undeniable. The case of Neetu Sharma, a wife who conspired with her lover to kill her husband in her own home, quickly became the focus of public opinion across Uttar Pradesh. Not only because of the brutality of the crime, but also because of the unprecedented factor. A 7-year-old girl was the main witness against her mother in the trial. In April 2025, after nearly 4 years of detention, investigation, and completion of the case file, the Agra court began the trial. The construction session attracted dozens of journalists and local residents to attend. The atmosphere was tense from the first minutes. In the courtroom, Sunita, the victim's sister, sat in the front row, her eyes red, constantly looking at the defendant with a look of resentment mixed with pain. "Surendra is a gentle, kind person. He has never raised his voice at anyone. But my sister-in-law is so cruel." She choked up as she told reporters outside the court. When little Kushi, the 7-year-old child of the past, appeared in the dock, now a 10-year-old girl, the atmosphere in the courtroom seemed to freeze. Under the protection of a child psychologist, she calmly recounted that fateful night. "My mother called me out to the bedroom. I couldn't see my father. Then I heard a noise, my father coughing heavily, as if he was suffocating. When I entered the room, I saw a man sitting on my father, and my mother held my father's hands." The girl's innocent yet piercing testimony shocked the court. Neither Neetu's nor Sunil's defense lawyers could refute it. The court also rejected Neetu's plea for leniency, despite her lawyer's attempt to allege that she had been mentally abused by her husband, because there was no concrete evidence to support it. "This is an unforgivable crime," Judge Vinay Tripathi concluded. The accused chose her lover over her marital obligations, using her young daughter as a shield, and letting her witness the entire incident is an unforgivable cruelty. In the end, both Neetu Sharma and Sunil Kumar were sentenced to life imprisonment under Section 302 of the Indian Penal Code, without the possibility of parole for 20 years. When the sentence was pronounced, Neetu slumped in her chair, not saying a word. Meanwhile, Sunil just sneered, as if he had never considered this a serious crime. Kushi was sent to live with her aunt, the victim's sister, under the protection of the court. She became a symbol of courage, daring to speak out against her own mother to demand justice for her father. The Agra murder case did not end with a harsh sentence, but opened up a series of painful questions about family, about trust, and about cracks that no one seemed to see. A gentle, devoted man, murdered by his wife and lover in the house he once called home. And the most heartbreaking thing, the last witness, was his daughter, Kushi, only 7 years old. The law can punish the perpetrators, but who will heal the wounds in that child's soul? Who will give her back a childhood without haunting a faith that is not broken? This is not just a story of one family. It is a wake-up call for all of us. Don't stay silent when relationships are broken. Don't close your eyes to signs of betrayal, abuse, or lies. And don't let today's indifference turn into tomorrow's tragedy. In the thick darkness of crime, Kushi, a 7-year-old girl, is the only remaining light. She bravely stood up to tell the truth, and it is thanks to her that justice has been brought to light. Crime is not born overnight. It grows from indifference, from the things we overlook, from the love left unspoken. If you find this story meaningful, please subscribe to our channel to spread life lessons, truths that need to be faced, and stories that warn each fate. And remember, choose love before it's too late.